Welcome, everybody. This is a session on using technology, simple ways, brought to you by a simple mind. My name is Bob Seibel. I've been a clinical teacher for 25 years. I was lucky enough to begin my clinical teaching career at Chicago Kent, where I got introduced to and mentored a little bit by Ron Stout, who I don't see in the audience, probably because he realizes that I don't have anything to tell him that he doesn't already know. But he was the one with Jim Sproul who sort of first got me excited and interested in technology and teaching. I, let's say, dabbled with technology for about 20 years in connection with my teaching in various ways. And up until about 2 or 3 years ago, I thought it was kind of fun and interesting and useful in many ways in the classroom and in clinical supervision to an extent. But it was just kind of like an avocation or an accessory. And I didn't really think it was all that critical, central, or important. It was just kind of fun and interesting. About 2 or 3 years ago, I started noticing a few things and went through a few experiences that began to change my thinking. The first one was that I was supervising a student in the clinic, and we had to make a court appearance in a town court in upstate New York. Very small time, very informal. I happened to know that this particular town had built a new courthouse, and I hadn't been to the new courthouse. So I said to the student, after we had briefed the case and practiced everything, I said to the student, one last thing, you better go to the phone book and look up the address of the new courthouse, because I haven't been there before and I'm not sure what the address is. She got up and looked at me and said, I don't know how to use a phone book, and walked out. Well, I've taught a lot of students a lot of different things in over 20 years of clinical teaching, but my jaw was hanging open for a minute or two, and I was trying to think, what's the correct pedagogical approach to teaching a 23-year-old, brilliant, bright, whatever student how to use a phone book? So I grabbed the phone book. Ithaca phone book was about that thick, white pages and yellow pages. And I headed out to the student workroom to help her learn how to use a phone book. Well, she bumped into me on my way out the door, and in her hand was a piece of paper with the address, phone number, a map, and directions of how to get to the courthouse, which she had gotten off the internet in the time it took me to figure out that there was maybe an issue here. Then I realized that the issue was me and not her, and that things were really beginning to change. So I was learning my lesson from that. A few weeks later, I was teaching a course that was designed to kind of be a survey of different ways that technology is impacting the practice of law. And my theme for the class was, the times are changing. So what better way to start off the class than with a little selection from Bob Dylan's song, The Times They Are Changing. 5 minutes before class, I gather my stuff together, and the CD is on my desk at home. Normally, in the pre-enlightened days, I would have gone to Plan B and figured out some other way to start the course. Instead, remembering my student who had just taught me this lesson about the internet, I thought maybe I can find something on the internet. In less than a minute, using Google and Bob Dylan lyrics, I found a website that not only had the lyrics of all of his songs, but had audio clips of the start of every song. So I go up to class, I hook my laptop up to the internet and to the projector, and I log on to bobdylan.com or whatever it was, and I start my class with Bob Dylan singing "The Times They Are Changing." And then I explain to the class just how much indeed the times were changing, because in a short time I had learned that I could use the internet to do things that didn't require me to carry a boom box, make sure I remembered my CD, and bring all of that to class so that I could do this 30-second clip of "The Times They Are Changing." Finally, my lesson for that semester was, in this course we were covering some of the ethical issues that are raised by lawyers using the internet. You know, all the usual unauthorized practice, confidentiality, all those things. And the students had done research, looked up ethical opinions, court cases, and so forth. So I asked them to form little small groups and just prepare a presentation, or the outline of a presentation, that they would give to a group, a bar group, with lawyers who were interested in setting up websites for their practice, sole practitioners, small practice. And my students' job was to kind of do a CLE on what the ethical considerations would be and what the lawyers getting onto the internet should think about. And I casually suggested you might want to think about using PowerPoint. So I gave them 30 minutes to prepare their little presentations, thinking that what I'll get from each group is an outline of what topics they're going to cover, and maybe a few slides with a little bit of text. In half an hour, every single group, there were 5 groups, every single group came back with a brief multimedia presentation using PowerPoint that just blew me away. I couldn't believe it. And we had talked about PowerPoint. We had done one exercise with PowerPoint. But they not only talked about the substance of what needed to be conveyed, but they translated into text, pictures, backgrounds, and they were not great, but in 30 minutes it was just astonishing to me. So all of that is by way of saying that I no longer think of the use of technology in teaching as an option. It's not an accessory. It's not an interesting gimmick. The boat has left the port down there. And if we're not on it, we're in trouble. So my premise in coming to you today is that we're reaching a critical stage. And for a guy like me with gray hair, it's easy to say, I don't really have to worry about this, because by the time the technology really takes hold, I'll be retired. But the students I'm teaching are going to be practicing for the next 40 years, and many of them. And by the time they hit the streets in 2 or 3 years, the practice will already be changed from what it is as we sit here today. So I think, if nothing else, we've got to get our students thinking about dealing with change and dealing with fundamental change in the way they think about their role as lawyers. So I probably don't have to convince you all about that. My next revelation, though, was that when I would sit down with people and say, gee, I've had these experiences, and we really better get serious about this technology stuff, everybody had a good reason why they didn't, why it shouldn't be an important part of their teaching or the way they spent their time. So mostly what I want to do today is show a few simple things that I think probably everybody in the room can already do or else learn to do fairly quickly. And then I want to get a guinea pig who's willing to come up and spend 10 minutes with me, learn a new program, and then we'll put it to use with this group in a discussion about what are the obstacles to using technology in our teaching. How many people are faculty here? How many are librarians? IT people? People who just came in to get out of the sun? Only one? Oh, good. Okay, and how many use PowerPoint or some other presentation software? Good, excellent. How many use Mind Manager? Good. I need a volunteer who doesn't know me well and who doesn't know how to use Mind Manager to be my clinic student for 10 minutes. Okay? Great. What we're going to do is I'm going to spend 10 minutes with, what's your name?
Fred.
Fred. Fred and I, we don't know each other, right? Just want to make sure that...
You're going to like saw me in half.
No, you're going to saw me in half. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a lapse of memory or a senior moment or something like that on my part. Okay, what I want the rest of you to do for about 10 minutes is break yourselves into small groups of 4 or 5 and just brainstorm a bit about what the obstacles are that exist in your world, whatever your teaching, IT, library environment is, that are things that you face that might block your ability, your comfort, or your success in using technology. And while you're doing that, Fred and I are going to master Mind Manager. And then in about 10 minutes, I'm going to show you a few things on PowerPoint, and then we'll see if we can determine once and for all what the problems are with implementing technology. Questions? Okay. Remember, I'm a clinical teacher, so the bottom or the top line is you got to have some active learning. Everybody. Okay. Fred?
So you did want me to come down?
I did want you to come down here. We're going to open Mind Manager. With a little luck, this will be the screen that you will begin working with when we get to the real thing. For now, I'm going to open a blank. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to open a blank so that we can just play. Okay, so this is sort of the typical beginning screen. Here's your cheat sheet, and you can take notes on this if you want. But what Mind Manager does is basically, well, it does a lot of different things, but what we're going to use it for is just to kind of record a brainstorming session. And what it allows you to do is create branches for different subtopics of the main topic, and then sub-branches and sub-branches. And if you really got to know the program, you'd be able to draw lines and connect and add colors and pictures and everything else. But for our purposes, we're just going to sort of record the discussion and try to, use it visually and then save it so that we could distribute it to the students to work on at home. Okay, so the first thing is to enter text. You just select it. When you see it's highlighted, you just type and hit return, and now you've entered your text. Okay? Now, if you wanted to edit that, you just click on it again, and you can say, no, not tests. Okay, and then you hit return and you've got that. Okay? To add a branch, you just hit insert while you've selected what's in there. Okay? Now this is highlighted. Oh, I guess I should be turning my mic off. Actually, it would be interesting to leave the mic on.
you can wait and see how the discussion Okay, folks.
Okay, folks. Good. That's a great start. Hopefully, once we get the technology involved, it'll still be fun. Okay. I'm going to give you a little bit of a breather for a couple of minutes while I do a little PowerPointing and raise a couple of points about PowerPoint. How many like using PowerPoint? What do you, just quick couple of suggestions or examples of what you, how do you use it? What do you put up on the screen when you're using PowerPoint? Anybody?
I use it for an orientation to a course where I've got specific objectives, and then I can combine discussion assignments with a small group, and I'll put up something for people to talk about. And
Okay.
I have to put it back into the discussion. And that works pretty well.
Okay. Other uses?
I don't like it as well for graphics, but I do like it for graphics.
Okay.
You've got a series of graphical images.
Okay. Good. Good. Excellent. Other things you like or don't like to use PowerPoint for?
Charts.
Charts.
Excel.
Okay. Yeah. What kind of problems? In-class problems. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Okay, good. Just so that you know, we're going to come back to the exercise that you've just been doing about obstacles to using technology. It's actually, with a little bit of luck on the technology, it's integrated into this. So here we are. We're at the CALI conference. there and back again is a theme that I never quite did understand. But I did get the message last night on the cruise that I want to come back here again, or not go home at all and just stay here. Whoop. Okay, so my first message about technology is it's not rocket science. You don't have to be a technical wizard. It probably wouldn't hurt the more you know about the underpinnings of technology. But you really don't have to be a rocket scientist to use this. And also, it's very effective, probably most effective, for graphics rather than text. The technology that we're ever contemplating using is really just a tool, and like any tool, it can be used in a lot of different ways. If you think about a hammer, you can use it to build something. You can use it to destroy something. You can try to become the hammer. Or you can segue into another topic, which gave me an excuse to use a picture of Mike Norwood, who is my good friend and another mentor who really has helped me a lot with understanding technology. But what I put Mike up here is in part to illustrate the difference between the visual and the textual. And we talk a lot about the current generation of TV watchers, visual learners, and so on. And that's kind of an easy and superficial excuse, if you will, for why we should move to technology, because we can put up a nice picture of Mike and the picture says a lot. Or we can talk in words about Mike. And I guess the first conventional wisdom about using PowerPoint would be don't use it for the text, use it for the picture. Well, I think it's not quite that simple, because I think the picture conveys some things and overcomes some problems, and has a time element of very fast, which is good for addressing attention deficit or short-term attention people. But if you look at the textual description, there are things there that are not really clear from the picture. So depending on what you're trying to do in the classroom for a particular use, you may want to use some text, probably not as much as I've got here. But this is set up in sort of the context of, what if I had a hypothetical in a course that I was teaching that was going to illustrate how a jury would receive information about a potential culprit in a criminal situation. And the idea is that one witness had a digital camera and was standing outside the building shortly after a theft of a laptop was reported, and snapped a picture of this guy coming out of the building, thinking, well, maybe not even knowing that the theft had occurred, but just thinking it was an interesting shot. And then later found out that there had been a theft, and so they cooperatively brought the picture to the police. Another person saw the same guy but didn't have a camera and was able to describe the guy to the police. So what information do you get from the picture that you don't get from the words? What information do you get from the words that you don't get from the picture? And what issues are raised? Well, I showed this to somebody just before coming in here who's from Glasgow. And he took one look at the text and he said, well, weight about 175 doesn't mean anything to me, because you're talking pounds and I'm talking kilograms. So the cultural frame of reference immediately becomes kind of an issue. And I intentionally use 175 instead of the more classic average weight or medium weight, medium height, because it's more specific and conveys more information. On the other hand, if you look at the picture and you didn't have the text to tell you that this is a guy who's 6 feet tall, you wouldn't really have a frame of reference from this picture. Okay, so my point is we have to think about visual and textual learning, but I don't think we should too quickly adopt the notion that PowerPoint and visual presentations are really only good for this or only good for that. You have to be thinking about what is it that you are trying to convey. And of course, the other thing is the text. There was too much text. It was too small. It's hard to read and distracting. So that probably there were some people in the room who were reading while I was talking, and I don't think it matters particularly in this context, but in some contexts you wouldn't want that to happen. Okay. Now when we think about adding some visual content, the next thing that came to my mind was we can build in a link. Go to the internet. Take advantage of the fabulous technology that we have available here. And now we can really begin to use the PowerPoint, I hope, in a different and better way. Because what we've now done is go from within the PowerPoint to a link to a streaming video of the Ohio Supreme Court. And if you want to teach students or illustrate points about oral argument or civil procedure.
The last case in our calendar is 03-2220, Henry Holmes and Dynasty Row. Mr. Reitler.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the Court.
Let me tell you that despite our advanced technology here, the lights on the podium are not working. So I will tell you when you have 2 minutes remaining. In other words, the amber light won't light for you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Chad Radler on behalf of Appellant Jeffrey Turner. We've raised two propositions of law.
Okay, well, we won't listen to too much of the Ohio Supreme Court, but if nothing else, you can at least tell your students that technology failures don't just happen in the classrooms that they're sitting in, but even the Ohio Supreme Court, in the midst of a real-life argument, has to deal with those things. Okay, so my point is simply that, again, we're using technology. I don't think there's anybody in this room who couldn't put together a slide with a link to the internet to incorporate that kind of material into a class. It doesn't necessarily have to be audio-visual. Doesn't necessarily have to be directly related to law. And it could be just a demonstration of some of the possibilities of technology in the practice of law, like video conferencing, like appearing in court without being in court by using video links. Okay, well, that's just, again, simple uses of technology that I think we could start to do even without learning much more. Okay, then I was going to try to do a demonstration to show some of the benefits that I saw coming out of actually introducing PowerPoint to students and requiring them to use it. But I've described to you how quickly the students mastered it in this course that I was teaching. And many of them now, I think, are coming to us knowing PowerPoint better than we do. So I'm not going to really do that. What I am going to do, though, is introduce Mind Manager which is another software tool that is really a multi-purpose tool and can be used before, during, and after class. And what I propose to do here, I hope, is to have Fred come down and help me as we build a mind map about the obstacles to the use of technology. Okay? So I've given us a little bit of a start here. Our main topic is obstacles to the use of technology. And I wanted to be careful to illustrate that we're not only talking about classroom use, but as a clinical teacher, I'm very interested in how technology fits in with the sacred one-to-one relationship that I have with my students, in which we sit and talk, and they become lawyers or understand the profession in a very personal way from that. So I've also given us a little bit of a head start with the idea that obstacles to using technology could be institutional, could be individual, could have to do with the nature of the topic, or any other things. And so I'd like to hear from you, from your discussions, about some of the things that you came up with. And Fred, who doesn't know me or didn't know me and never used Mind Manager before, is a fabulous clinical student who is not worried about his ego and who is going to give us a demonstration of how he can put this tool to use in recording our discussion once we get going. And I use this in class when I'm brainstorming topics with students. And then what I can do, as you'll see sort of at the end, is once we get the ideas up there, unlike the blackboard where they just either sit, get erased, or I have to scribble them down after class, I can save this, I can email it or post it on my website for the course, and I can assign the students to rework it, revise it, edit it, and refine it. And then we can finish the discussion in a following class or online. So let's see what we can come up with for reasons why people don't use technology more. Yes?
They don't see a need to use it.
Don't see the need. Okay, good.
They don't want to invest the time. They're already...
Okay. Good. Time's a big issue. Yes? Yeah. Technophobia, or worse. It's fear and loathing. Okay? Good. Yeah.
Fear that it won't work. You're going to be a fool in front of your class.
Okay? Good. Fear that it won't work. Fear that they'll look bad. Good.
Notice he called it embarrassment, not fear. That's all right for us.
Pedagogical choice. Good. Good. You have some examples? Okay.
Lack of planning.
Lack of planning. I can relate to that. More.
Not knowing who or what is available to help you learn how to use it.
Oh, boy. That's a good one. Lack of instruction, IT support requirements, Equipment availability. Good. Yeah.
Concerned that it will distract from other pedagogical tools such as group learning.
Okay. Conflicts with other pedagogy. Good. Good. Okay. Money. Money for hardware and software. Okay. Others? Staffing. Okay. All right.
Prior bad student evaluations with technology.
Aha. Prior reports of student dissatisfaction with technology. Okay, I think we'll stop here. Certainly not an exhaustive list. But let's just take a look at what we've got up there. And, whoop, there we go. Great, okay. And do we see either other categories than the ones I used to start us off, individual, don't see a need? Do we see some factors that might fit in more than one place? Could you enlarge it? Sure. Click on the 64 there. Yeah, go up to 75. How about that? Okay. Text is hard to read? Yeah. Okay. I didn't show Fred how to change the font, but actually, that would be a good thing to do. Just simply changing the font would make it more readable. You can also blow it up larger and not have the whole thing showing on the screen at one time. Okay. How about some ideas that you might have now from seeing this about how you might use this in your teaching, how you might use this piece of software, Mind Manager, in your courses? Yeah.
I could see using something like this as a review tool as those review sessions at the end of the semester for sit there and think, okay, what are the concepts we studied? How do they fit together? What's the big picture?
Right. Okay.
New students come up with this.
Okay. That suggests to me a couple of different things. One would be to use it like we did here as a review session in which the students fill out the chart, so to speak. I could also see it being used as a review tool, more like sort of a presentation tool, where I prepare the map of the course using this, and I present it, and students can watch it on screen or on their laptops while they're asking me questions about different areas, and I'm giving them the information they need to prepare for the exam, or the information that they need to allow me to go on to the next block of doctrine or topic that I want to cover. Good. Others?
Certain facts going to certain causes of action.
Right? Okay. So you could use this to focus on different causes of action and maybe reconstruct it according to what cause of action you're interested in analyzing. Yeah?
I think anything that requires lists would be helpful. For example, in advanced legal research, you're often talking about advantages and disadvantages of Lexis and Westlaw, the internet, and hard copy.
Right. Good. And for me, that also triggers the thought that I can sit down with a student and prepare with them for a counseling session that they're going to have with a client. And we can use this tool in our supervision session. We can also talk about how the student might use a tool like this to enhance their ability to counsel the client, to get the concepts across to the client more clearly and firmly than they could do just using the normal words orally or in print. Yeah?
Just a comment or perhaps an admission. I can talk and write on a whiteboard at the same time. I still have difficulty typing and talking or filling in the space in the classroom. I love technology, so I assume that practice will improve that.
It's actually, technology is already solving that problem. There was a session yesterday about tablet PCs, and this happens to be a tablet PC that the owner hasn't had enough time to feel comfortable demonstrating. But in fact, using this PC, I can flip it into a tablet and write on it, and it will show up and it will be saved. And that's why I got the tablet PC, because to me, ultimately, the combination of that kind of hardware and this kind of software just makes unlimited additional possibilities. Because I'm a terrible typist, and my handwriting is terrible, but this has handwriting recognition that will eventually understand my handwriting. And I can at least go back when I've handwritten something and reinterpret it and then edit it later. So I totally agree. It's a hard issue, but one that technology is helping us with. Also, I should say that when I have used this in class, I find it is much more difficult to use effectively if I'm alone. If there are two of us, one to manage the technology and one to manage the discussion, it works better. And who's the best assistant you can get in one of your classes to do that? One of the students. So I get the students to help me out. They learn something about technology, and it really assists the whole discussion. It does take the individual student out of that particular discussion, but not that high a price to pay, I don't think. Also, I co-teach with another faculty member, and we use this a lot. Or not a lot, not enough, but more and more. Yeah?
I'm just wondering if there's an advantage to setting up a chart like this with Mind Manager versus PowerPoint. Because I know you can set up using the organizational chart feature, you can do something very similar in PowerPoint. It might be easier to manipulate.
Well, in class, live brainstorming, I think this is much easier to use than PowerPoint for that purpose. In sort of more the abstract, for a more static chart, I don't know. PowerPoint might be good. Visio might be good. Word has organizational charting features. I think there are lots of options. So I'm really, we're almost out of time. I think we should give Fred a big round of applause. The most important point that I wanted to make today is that the boat is leaving the pier. And we don't have to think about the jumping on the boat as a major, time-consuming, high learning curve feat. Fred is a fabulous guy and a very willing student. But my experience has been that I can take most faculty members, and in 10 or 15 minutes, we can get to the level where they feel comfortable, as Fred just did, I think, right?
Yeah.
Using this in a classroom in an effective way. And you may look at this demo and say to yourself, well, that really wasn't that fabulous, and it would be nice if I could do this or that, like use colors, add pictures, change the font. You can do all those things with this program, but you don't need to do all those things to have an effective tool that you can use in the classroom, and it's a dynamic tool. And students love it. So that's my message. The technology is here, and let's use it. Thank you.
Daring to have a true technology, innovative. Oh,
I forgot my most important graphic. I forgot my favorite graphic here, so this is what we're going to look like to our students if we don't get on the bandwagon. Thank you.
so now you do know each other. You can't do this again next time. How much contribute to